Here I was minding my business after the 10-year anniversary of Stranger Things, thinking, I'm going to step away from Conformity Gate. I'm going to stop making videos for a while. I'm going to take notes and just kind of wait and see what happens. I'm going to focus on other things. And then I watched the first shadow, and I never ran to my notebook so fast. And before I get started, I just also want to thank everybody for watching my last video and for all of the new subscribers. If you're new here, I do highly suggest watching the other ones first, just so that you have full context. And I also do want to clearly state, I am not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm fully aware that there might not be any more Stranger Things. I mean, I know that there's going to be like a spin-off. I know that there's more Tales from 85 coming, but I am aware that season 5 really might just be the end, and I just want to reiterate that. A lot of people are very quick to hate and be very mean, very nasty, and call people like myself stupid with no media literacy, and that we just fall for anything and we're so gullible. But nobody has been able to answer about the dial yet. With that being said, I'm not promising that there's going to be more. Honestly, there might not be, and I go back and forth every single day. I have a lot of doubt. I have a lot of hope. It's a swinging pendulum. So, all right. I think that's my only disclaimer for the video. Let's jump into it. Okay, so July 15th was the 10-year anniversary of Stranger Things, and myself, along with a lot of other people, expected some sort of confirmation or clue or big reveal. I didn't think that we were going to get like more episodes or anything, but I did think we were going to get some sort of confirmation. So admittedly, I was disappointed that we didn't really get that. However, we did get something. We got quite a few things. So let's look over that first. A bunch of new merch came out. It's pretty predictable. They came out with a line of t-shirts. And on the Instagram post for advertising for these t-shirts, they chose a lot of Stranger Things quotes, kind of like swirling around the shirts. But some of the quotes that they chose were interesting. Quotes such as, "I don't believe in coincidences, not anymore." Right. "Try before you deny." And as we know, that happened in season 4 when Argyle was trying to get Mike to try the pineapple pizza, and he said that he can't do fruit on pizza. A lot of Bylers believe this was another queer coding type of scene, because he didn't want to try fruit on pizza, and then he tried it, and then he was like, oh, it's actually pretty good. So yeah, try before you deny. "We ask for forgiveness, not permission." I also thought this one was pretty interesting because if you look at it through a conformity gate lens, it kind of speaks for itself. It's Hawkins, it's not the same without you, which all of us Bylers know that's what Mike says to Will. There are 3 different quotes talking about doors, which I do think is very significant. "Why are you keeping the curiosity door locked?" is one of them. Another one is said, "I kept the door open 3 inches. And another quote, "Keep the door open 3 inches. So 3 door quotes. 3 door quotes. One about the curiosity door, and then 2 about keeping it 3 inches open. And again, I could just be reading too much into it. This could be confirmation bias. I just feel like these are very interesting quotes to choose. Out of all the quotes in Stranger Things, this is what we go for. "I don't believe in coincidences. We ask for forgiveness, not permission." And then 3 door quotes. Also, wording is very important, and I have come across over the past couple months Stranger Things merch or posts that keep talking about "we're going back." Like, that's what they keep saying, "we're going back, we're going back." A well-known Conformity Gate creator on TikTok, her name is Katie, she bought some merch for the 10-year anniversary, and she got the confirmation email, but then a couple days later, she got a separate email saying, "Keep your compass handy and your walkie-talkies on. Things are about to get strange." But the wording is interesting. Netflix store is also selling this Mind Flayer hoodie, and they've been selling it for the past few months. It's not like a new item. But if you look on the post, it says, "Prepare for ultimate battle again, the ultimate hive mind." And then the Stranger Things on Broadway account, which of course just posts about the first shadow play, one of their recent posts said, "We're going back to 1959. This has just been a repeated pattern, whether it's merch, whether it's advertisement for the show or the play. They keep saying, "We're going back, we're going back, we're going back." And it just makes me think of Finn's quote when he said, "We go back and we rewrite history," when he was talking about the finale of season 5. Hi, it's me from the future. I'm currently editing my video, and I was gonna record this in a proper, I was gonna record this properly with my microphone, but Logic Pro is not opening up because my laptop is 14 years old. So I'm just gonna insert this really quick in here. Something new has occurred just the other day. Katie has discovered that Netflix is selling the Stranger Things hoodie. It's a season 1 hoodie, and it has all the name of the episodes on it, except episode 3 is incorrect.
2 of these items have the season 1 chapter titles printed on them, except they don't. Every single chapter is correct except chapter 3. Season 1 episode 3 is called Holly Jolly. The merch doesn't say that. It says The Monster and the Superhero, which isn't a season 1 episode. That is the name of episode 3 of season 4.
That's wild. And who knows, maybe that is just a mistake. I think that's pretty unlikely. That's a pretty big mistake to make. How do you, if you're reading off a list of episodes from season 1, how would you accidentally add one from a different season? I don't know, but 4-3 comes up a lot. I just had to squeeze this into the video, so forgive me for the bad quality. That's all. The official Stranger Things DVD box set did come out, and a lot of us were very curious as to what that was and what that would have in store. And some people got this box set early. One of them being Jo. Oh my god, she's so brilliant. I love hearing her talk about Stranger Things and her theories and her observations. But she's one of the people that got sent the box set early. And she said that the box set is the wrong weight. And she's from the UK, so these measurements aren't going to be like American measurements. The box set is advertised as 2.8 kilograms. And for us Americans, that is 6.173 pounds. All right, so just over 6 pounds. And the box set that she got is actually 2.4 kilograms, which is 5.291 pounds. So that is almost a whole pound difference. That is a significant difference. So she was wondering if maybe there's something missing from the box set. And who knows if that actually means anything, but the fact of the matter is, it is a different weight than what it is advertised as. It also comes with a booklet, and it's the same booklet that we see at the end of the end credits after the finale, the one with the Mind Flayer and the kids on it. And in that book, it mentions Edward Creel. Who is that? Who is that? There are theories surrounding Edward Creel and who that is. Blue Tack has a Shadowgate theory suggesting that there are 2 timelines, 2 Creel families, and that Edward is Vecna and Henry isn't. I'm not going to be able to explain it well, so if you are interested in Blue Tack's theories, please go look her up. Very interesting. But there's no denying that Edward Creel is somebody. We don't know who it is, but it is in the official booklet that came out with the DVD box set. Like, that's not a typo. That is a deliberate choice. That is weird. Who is Edward Creel? They re-released season 1 as a VHS version. But a few interesting things to point out. The aspect ratio for VHS is 4:3 format. And like this TikTok creator Jenny pointed out, 3 to the right, 4 to the left. And maybe that's just a coincidence. And speaking of VHSs, leading up to the release of Stranger Things 5, T-Mobile and Stranger Things did a collab. They came out with an ad. First, I want to say this commercial is shot beautifully. It's very cinematic. It definitely has a high budget. It honestly, in my opinion, looks a lot better than the entirety of season 5, I'll be honest. It's shot beautifully. It's a really good ad. It's a T-Mobile ad, which is a cell phone company. And if you think of cell towers, you think of radio towers, you think of communication in that way. And as we know, radio towers are a huge thing in Stranger Things as well, and radio frequencies. It's Mike, Will, and Lucas in Mike's basement. And then Dustin bursts through the door and he says,
"I've got an idea."
And Dustin says he knows how to defeat Vecna. And then he hands them these 4 VHSs. Back to the Future, which is self-explanatory at this point. I shouldn't even have to point out why Back to the Future is significant here. E.T., which as we know is another huge inspiration for Stranger Things, and the Elle storyline is very inspired by E.T. And E.T. is one of my favorite movies, and it just recently dawned on me that E.T. and Elliot, their minds are connected, and they feel a lot of the same emotions, and they see a lot of the same things. And this also could be paralleled with like Henry and Will and like the hive mind. And I didn't put that together until recently, and I should have put that together a long time ago. So we got Back to the Future, we got E.T., we have Commando, and that's the only movie out of these 4 that I haven't watched, but even just looking up a brief synopsis, it's about John Matrix getting his daughter back after his daughter was taken, so that reminds me of the Holly storyline, or Will storyline to be honest. And the 4th movie is Empire Strikes Back, the 5th episode of Star Wars, And it's also the episode where the villains win. And we're going to talk more about The Empire Strikes Back later, but I do think it's very significant. All right, and in this T-Mobile commercial, the boys team up together. They build this like 2 TV system. They set up this device that like plays multiple movies one after the other, and there's multiple scenes keep switching in and out. And we see the TV glitch, and then the power goes out, and then these like weird vine upside down creatures come in, and then Mike stomps them out. And that's how the advertisement ends. It's so good. It's so well shot, but I do find it interesting. Not only were they teaming up with T-Mobile, which is a cell phone company, and also goes along with the radio tower thing, and then the VHSs saying, oh, this is a vital part to defeat Vecna, and the specific movies that they chose are very telling. I do think that there's a lot of significance in that T-Mobile ad, and it's clear that they spent a big budget on it. I feel like there could be some Easter eggs in there. So if we're going back to season 1 and the VHS versions, fans that have watched the season 1 VHS release have noted a lot of white glitches, and that is normal for VHSs, but it seems that these glitches appear at very significant specific moments. And one of the biggest differences from this VHS version versus the version we have on Netflix is that after they find Will's body in the quarry, when Lonnie comes into town and reunites with Joyce, and they're running into each other's arms, there are these flashing blue lights in the corner of the VHS version.
VHS version? Old version. What are those lights?
To me, it doesn't come across as, oh, that's just VHS glitch. You know, that is very like, those are flashing blue lights in the corner, and I do think that there is some significance to that. Also, we've talked about Matthew Modine back in part 2. This man is so suspicious. He is either the biggest troll, or he's a man with a lot of secrets, and he's trying to give us clues. I don't know. That's the thing, is that none of us know. But on the 10-year anniversary, he tweeted out, Netflix just discovered Dr. Brenner's archive of videotapes. Okay. Suggesting that these could be the Nina tapes, because remember, Dr. Brenner had a bunch of tapes in the Nina project, and he was showing Elle her memories, or trying to like get her to see them through the tapes. Wow. This man has been posting a lot of interesting things. All right. Earlier in July, he posted a picture of him as Dr. Brenner and Millie Bobby Brown as 11. And of course, he's liking and replying to comments again. And he's hearting all of these comments. And then when people are asking him downright, is there more Stranger Things? Are we getting any more? Papa, are you returning? He just responds with the shrug emoji. So I don't know, maybe that's just his way of egging us on, and it might not mean anything. Because like he could just downright say no, but he is doing a lot of the shrugging emoji and saying maybe. Then he posted this picture of him like on the ground, I think, and it said, Papa's melting like ice cream. And there were even more comments under that he was liking and that he was responding to. The one that I noticed that really popped out at me and really like made me stop and question things, someone said, we missed seeing you in season 5. And he responded, what? I wasn't there? What were the kids running from then? Also, remember that like documentary clip? I think it was in part 3. I think it was in my Conformity Gate part 3. I don't know for sure. I think so. But it was Jamie Campbell Bower behind the scenes talking about the making of Vecna and him getting into character, right? And in some shots, his hair is white. His hair is like white. And he looks like Brenner. Like in certain angles and from the back, he looks like Brenner. And then it just cuts back to him having dirty blonde hair again. So it's really weird that we see a lot of like Brenner and Henry like parallels as if they're the same person. Maybe this has no correlation, but also Matthew Modine posting being like, oh, Papa's melting like ice cream. There also has been a lot of mention of ice cream on the Stranger Things accounts. When they said, it's going to be a Stranger Things summer. Stranger Things summer so close I can taste the Scoops Ahoy ice cream. Matthew Modine also posted this screenshot of an audio clip that we can only assume is from season 4, I believe. But he says that he will release it once he reaches 1 million followers. And at the time of posting it, he was at 800K. And after a few days went by and his follower count didn't really go up, he changed it to 900K. And then a few days ago, he said maybe he's willing to drop it to 850K. And like, I think that he's just, I don't know, on this one I think he's just being silly, because realistically, if there was a secret season or movie or something coming out, the dates have already been set for that. Like, no matter what it is, it would already, like, you know, be prepared to come out at a certain time. I don't think that Matthew Modine's follower account will actually have any control over, like, what can be released or not. But it is still really funny that he you know, you just got to take a shot, you know, you got to shoot for the stars or something, like whatever that quote says. That's what he was trying to do. He asked for 1 million followers, and his follower count isn't going up that quick. I'm sorry, Papa. But he was willing to drop it to 850K, so maybe soon we'll get this mysterious audio clip. Who knows? Also, Slim Jim is back. Slim Jim is back, and everybody's conformity gate comments saying, "I still believe. I believe." Are you just trying to sell us meat? I don't know, but he is back after months of silence. Also, I do want to point out once again that Netflix has been going back and re-editing their episodes. Netflix, to this day, is still going back and editing little things in the Stranger Things show. I don't know what, but it is important to note, especially because they still haven't fixed the dial. They still haven't fixed the dial. And they can. They have all the resources in the world to change the colors if they wanted to, but they're not. And that is significant, and that is something that cannot be disproven to this day. I'm just saying, I want to point that out there. Someone pointed out that there are glitches in season 3, apparently. I tried to go back and prove this for myself. Someone took this slowed down video of Nancy and Jonathan in the hospital when the monsters are attacking them. And apparently, when the lights keep flickering, you can see very quick flashes of other scenes or other characters when that is happening. I tried to go back and watch it for myself to see if I could catch it, but it was so quick that I didn't catch it. But if I can find the video, I'll insert the clips here of someone slowing it down and seeing that the flashes of light are like showing us images. Oh, there is also quite a few script differences. The official season 5 script came out, and people are comparing it with the actual scenes we saw in the show. And tell me why, in the bathroom scene where Will and Mike are trying to hold the pipe together, instead of Will's jacket, in the script they tell him to take off his belt. I'm sorry, that scene alone is incredibly queer-coded and incredibly fruity. For them to be, I don't even need to get into it. Like, you can imagine. The fact that they originally wrote that Will would take off his belt to hold the pipe together. But they say it was never in the cards. It was never in the cards. Also, apparently, when Will is talking to Robin about signals, and he's saying, like, what kind of signals? And she's saying, you know, a brush of the knee, a bump of the elbow, a shared look. And Will looks away, and you can tell, like, there's hope in his eyes. And he's like, his eyes are darting back and forth. You can tell that he's, like, remembering things. Like, oh, shit. Me and Mike do all that. But in the script, it says that Will looks away disappointed. Oh, I'm sorry. I know that there are a lot of different opinions about Noah Schnapp's acting. I know some people think he's incredible, and some people think he delivers his lines really in a weird way, in a weird, not good way. But there's no way that they told him to look disappointed, and that's the face he gave. Because that boy knows how to look disappointed. I've seen it. You can argue about his acting, but, like, I have seen the pain and the yearning in his eyes in every single season. I know that look he was giving was a look of hope. So something's not adding up here. Something is not adding up here. My Byler senses are tingling. Like, what is that? And then, of course, for the Purple Rain scene, when Elle and Mike have their emotional goodbye, if you call that emotional, I wanted to cry, I wanted to care, but honestly, I was just too weirded out by the whole thing. When she says I love you, the script says Mike is too upset to answer back. I'm just gonna move on. In a recent interview, the interviewer was asking Finn, like, oh, I'm surprised there were no Beatles songs in Stranger Things. And Finn was saying, oh, I really wanted a Beatles song in there. I tried to, you know, that he suggested Beatles songs. But he pauses. He says, the last, and then he looks at the camera and he looks around the room and he says, the The last episode had the Purple Rain scene.
I always thought that Stranger Things missed a trick by not having a Beatles song in there.
You know what's funny? That was like the last episode had like there's like this Purple Rain scene with with Prince. We needed something that like it was like that would have been cool, but they needed 2 songs to like go back to back because like the whole point is that it's like timed to a bomb that's gonna blow up, so like they have to like start it on the B side, so it needed to be the perfect B side, and there just like wasn't one that was.
They really wrote themselves into a corner on that
and
one,
they really did.
But the way he paused and really like looked around before he finished his sentence, maybe he was just blanking out. I mean, to be fair, I do that every time I speak. The reason why there are so many cuts in my videos is because I can't form a single sentence without stuttering and pausing and repeating myself. Like, I'm really bad at talking. So maybe that's all this was. But, you know, the way he just like stuttered and like stopped and looked around when he's talking about the last episode, it could be seen as like he was trying to figure out what he's allowed to say. I don't know. Also, Noah Schnapp is back on TikTok. Noah's first post was him like kind of strumming and grooving along to the sound by Blake Wares. And it just so happens to be his own rendition of Purple Rain. And the original post that the sound is under for Blake Wares, the caption says, "I believe," and it says #conformitygate. So you're telling me Noah Schnapp comes back onto TikTok after months being off of TikTok, and the first thing he posts is a conformity gate sound out of all of the sounds he could choose. I'm just saying. And then he posted another video of him lip syncing to Total Eclipse of the Heart, but he's wearing a short that says McCorkle Farms on it, and that is the farm in Stranger Things. It's a fictional farm in Stranger Things. And he points the shirt. As he's lip syncing, he's like quite literally like pointing the finger across the shirt where it says that, which could mean nothing, which could be a coincidence, of course. As disappointed as I was that we didn't get some sort of clear confirmation that there might be more coming, I will say though that they wouldn't release something before season 2 of Tales from 85 comes out, and I also don't think they would release something new before the first Shadow play officially comes out to Netflix. And as overly hated as Tales from 85 is, it does have a lot of clues and Easter eggs and references in it. They even reference the radio tower and something suspicious going on with that. So we do have to keep in mind that Tales from 85 season 2 has to come out, and the first Shadow play has to come out before we get anything else, if we do. And that is what brings me to the first Shadow. We are finally going to talk about the first Shadow in depth today because I finally watched it for the first time. Shout out to Threat Level Mom Night for sending me the link on YouTube. It's something that you could look up. They're constantly taking down the first Shadow videos, but this one has been up since April, so hopefully it's still up when I upload this video. And you can go look for it. But I was like, why not? It's time. Let me just see what this is about. And after watching the first Shadow is when I decided I need to make another video as soon as possible. I got a glimmer of hope again. Like I knew that there were a lot of conformity gate clues, or like I guess proof, if you want to say that, or parallels in the first Shadow. I knew that the first Shadow was really important. But I severely underestimated just how much is in this play. I watched it twice. I watched once to like just get to know the story, and I watched it a second time to take notes. And it took me like several days to watch it the second time because I was pausing it so much just to write down, because it was like every 15 seconds I was pausing it and writing notes and pausing it and writing notes because it was so much. You know, and I only had like a limited time after work every day to watch some more of it. It took so long to get through because this play is so important to the Stranger Things story, and I really believe that, especially after watching it. All right, so the play starts with the USS Eldridge. It's a big ship. They jump into a different dimension. Their ship totally like goes from one place to the other, and there are basically no survivors. And then we also see a Demogorgon. That's just a very quick like intro scene. The ship goes from one dimension to another. We see a Demogorgon, and that's when it starts, and you hear the Stranger Things theme song. After the Stranger Things theme song, we see the door, the stained glass door of the Creel house. And the very first person to go through it is Henry. and Henry is carrying a radio with him, and the radio is playing a song. Alice burst through the door and she said, "It's like a fairy tale," and she runs up the stairs. And I do want to note here that in the play, all she says is, "It's like a fairy tale." But in the show, she says, "It's like a fairy tale, like a dream." But she doesn't say dream in the play. Just something to note. It even has a grandfather clock, she says. And the song that is playing on Henry's radio is "Tonight You Belong to Me" by Patience and Prudence. We're going to do a dream count here where every time someone mentions dreams, I'm going to put a number on the screen. We're just going to tally up the amount of times people talk about dreams in this play because it's a lot. But that's number one, is that he's listening to "Tonight You Belong to Me." And as we know, in that song, the lyrics go, "Once more just to dream, in the moonlight, my honey, I know, with the dawn you will be gone, but tonight you belong to me." And I do think this song choice is very significant because it's so, if you really think about it in this sense, it's so creepy because Henry has already been possessed by the Mind Flayer or whatever, bigger evil entity you believe it to be. But we're just going to say Mind Flayer for now because that's all we've been told, and like that's kind of what we've been calling it the whole time. The events in Nevada with when he was a Boy Scout and he touched that rock and he got possessed, that stuff has already happened. And they're just moving to Hawkins now. And he's listening to this radio probably to keep the evil away, because music does help you. And he seemingly carries it with him everywhere. And this song that's playing, "You Belong to Me," just sounds like the voice of the Mind Flayer being like, "It doesn't matter what you do, you belong to me. And at the end of the day, I own you." And that, thinking about it through that lens is so creepy and just so cool. If Stranger Things is good at one thing, it is the music. Both the score and then also the song choices that they use to tell the story, phenomenal. They really do an incredible job picking the music for that, and the play is no exception. His parents tell him to turn the radio off. They don't think it's healthy that he's carrying it around. His dad says that the radio is going to rot his brain, and his mom asks if he's still hearing odd things on the radio. And she tells him that if you have any more nightmares or if you hear anything odd on the radio, just tell yourself it's not real. I'm normal. I'm Henry Creel. And then she goes outside to talk to her husband. Henry turns the radio dial and we hear he's tuning in to listen to his parents talk. And they're arguing about him. And they're fussing over him and the use of the radio and, what's best for him. And then he gets so overwhelmed, he starts covering his ears and he shocks his hand. It's the same hand that gets shot by the man in the cave. And it's the same hand that we keep seeing Henry react with in season 5. It's also his left arm, and remember his left arm and his left eye, blah blah blah. I just want to point that out. We immediately jump to Hawkins High, and that is where we are introduced to all the students. These characters include Joyce, Karen, Ted, Bob, Hopper, Patty, Lonnie, and Alan Munson. There's also more characters, but those are just a few. Also, Bob has his own radio show. As we know, he is the founder of the Hawkins AV Club. And this also kind of parallels Robin in season 5 when she's in the squawk. But Bob's catchphrase is "Dream on, dreamers." And that's the first time we hear it is when we meet him. So, Bob and Patty are siblings. But to our knowledge, they are not related because Patty is adopted and she just kind of feels like a freak. She kind of feels like she's from nowhere, she doesn't belong anywhere, and that her father is ashamed of her, but she never knew her mother. And we learn that Patty and Bob's father is the principal. Patty meets Henry. It's very sweet. It's very, I love Patty and Henry. I think they are very sweet. I love the way they're written. They bond over Captain Midnight, which is a popular radio show in the 50s. And it's also the radio that Henry has is a Captain Midnight radio. When they shake hands, the radio goes off and starts playing a song and he gets really embarrassed. He gets really flustered. He's like, "Oh, she thinks I'm stupid. She thinks I'm a freak." And then Joyce finds Henry and asks him if he's going to be in the play. And she said, "You'd make a great witch." And then we're cut to the drama classroom and Henry's kind of in the shadows watching the other kids gather around for the play auditions. And Joyce says that everyone thinks we're going to put on Oklahoma, but we're actually going to put on a different play called Dark of the Moon. This is her exact quote. "Everyone thinks we're doing a high school production of Oklahoma, but we're not. Aren't you sick of living under Principal Newby's thumb? Don't you want things to change? I do. And that's why I'm putting on a secret play. which we will only reveal on opening night. Is it risky? Yes. But if we pull this off, this will change everything. And right away, if you are a believer in conformity gate, does that not sound like exactly what we think is happening? She's putting on a play that she knows is popular and that everyone loves, and she's advertising it that way. And then she's going to show something else. And she's saying, if we pull this off, it will change everything. And even if I'm trying to debunk this or look at this not from a conformity gate lens, this is still an odd choice to make. What is the purpose of this? I'm going to be honest, I don't really know. I don't know, because why can't she just put on Dark of the Moon? Or why can't she just do Oklahoma? Like, why does it have to be, I'm putting on this secret play and advertising it as something else? I'm going to be honest, the play, the plot line of the play within the play is not that important. Like, it is important, but it's not the main focus. The main focus of the first shadow is Henry and Patty's story and Henry's descent into evil, basically. The B plot of the play isn't really that important to the story. Like, it is, but it's more so there to communicate something with us. Otherwise, it just doesn't really make sense to do it. I'm trying to think about it outside of a conformity gate viewpoint. And even if I do so, this doesn't really need to happen. I don't think that Joyce has to put on Oklahoma and then have it be something else. I don't think that the plot needs that. You know what I mean? But no, she's trying to make a statement. She says she's tired of living under Principal Newbie's thumb and that she wants to break the norm and she wants to pull it off even if it's risky. So, personally, if I'm trying to not take this too seriously, I don't see the point in it. I don't. It just feels like it's trying to tell us something. It feels like it's trying to point something out. I know a lot of people won't believe me when I say this, but I do try to debunk everything. Like, before I make these videos, whenever I come up with a new theory or I come across a new opinion or theory or observation about conformity gate, I always think about, okay, how would this make sense or how would this not make sense? Like, there are plenty of theories and things that I don't really stand behind and that I don't believe in, which is fine. And I love that everyone has a different take on it. But I do try my best to zoom out and be reasonable and try to debunk everything and try to think about it through a bigger lens of a business lens, or is this something that Netflix would even do? Is this something that, anyone would even do? I do try my best to zoom out and be reasonable and not get too excited over all these little clues. I know that a lot of people don't believe me when I say that because they think oh, there's no basis behind what I'm saying and I'm just getting my hopes up for nothing. But I really do my best to try to look into everything and research and debunk these things. So I'm looking at the first shadow, trying to look at it from outside of a conformity gate lens. And there's things in it that just don't make sense otherwise, that just don't really fit. I don't understand this narrative of Joyce putting on a play and it being a different play, personally, unless it was about conformity gate. Okay, that's all, moving on. And the play Dark of the Moon is about a witch boy that falls in love with a human girl, and the big question of the play is, can love defeat fear? And this is also the theme of the first shadow itself. Can love defeat fear? And though I do think that is the theme of the show, there's another big theme of the show I want to point out that I noticed the second time watching the first shadow. This show is also about fathers. It's about daddy issues. So I think there's two questions in this play. Can love defeat fear? And can love defeat daddy issues? And we will get into the daddy issues later on, but I just want you to keep that in mind. There's a lot of talk about this play is about fathers also. Patty auditions as the human woman, the main lead in the show, and Henry is still kind of in the dark, watching in the corner. He's not really in the drama club, he's just observing. And Patty starts singing, and that's when Henry joins and he starts singing with her. And it's so cute. It's so cute. And also, can I just say, wording is important, because tell me why in this audition scene between Henry and Patty, when they're singing this song and they're reading the script, this is line for line what the script says.
It's a sad song. I like the gay ones best.
Now, I know that gay means happy, especially in the 50s. Like, I know that when people said I'm gay, they meant I'm happy. But I do think the wording is important because this is a modern play. Even if it takes place in the 50s, the language was chosen intentionally. I'm just saying, I think that it's interesting that they said that, okay? She says, I like the gay ones best. And Henry's character said, it doesn't have to be sad. You never know the ending till it's sung all the way through. And if we think about that in a conformity gate lens, what if the song hasn't been sung all the way through? I'm just saying, like, and then Patty responds, so let's make it a gay one. Hell yeah, let's make it a gay one. Okay, yes. I know a lot of people aren't happy about this, but Henry and Patty are canonically meant to parallel Will and Mike. Uh-oh, sorry. I do want to note that Patty's color palette is blue and yellow. She mostly wears blue, but she also wears yellow, and she's usually wearing one of the two colors. They say, sing your own ending. You never know the ending until you've sung it all the way through. I'm just, hey, even if I'm not looking at this from a conformity gate lens, wording is important. I'm just here to report to you my findings, okay? I didn't write the script. And after they sing together, the whole class goes quiet. All the students go quiet because they're so like enamored with these two and the chemistry between these two. And then Joyce said, after they sing, Joyce says, wow, end scene. That was so queer. I'm not making this up. Please go watch this play. She said that was so queer. And I know that queer also meant weird. Okay, I know these words meant different things back then, but they still chose to write that in there, okay? All right? She said that shit was so queer. All right, and then we see Bob Newby broadcasting his little radio show, and he talks about Joyce's upcoming play, Oklahoma. And he says, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Bob the Brain. And he's talking about himself because he is going to be like the sound guy for the show. It's the superhero parallels to season 2 when we meet older Bob. Bob genuinely is probably the best character in all of Stranger Things. I'll be honest. Oh my God, why did they do that to him? And then the song Sleepwalk starts playing. And he says, dream on, dreamers. All right, then we cut to Henry at home in the attic. He hears his parents arguing once again. His dad is a drunk. I just want to point that out. We learn in this play that his dad is an alcoholic and he's always wasted. Hey, I'm not shaming. I'm just pointing that out. And this also goes along with the daddy issues. More on that later. When his parents are arguing, his dad says that he saw Henry talking to a girl, and he likes that. He thinks it's normal. It's good that our son is talking to a girl. Meanwhile, his mom is freaking out and worried because she doesn't want the girl to get hurt. In Nevada, Henry apparently blinded a boy. He killed that guy in the cave. So his parents know that he is dangerous, and they're very worried for him. But his mom especially is like, I don't like that he's talking to a girl because what if something bad happens to this girl? And then Henry enters the void. We hear a clock ticking, and then he sees Walter and Claudia, and these are Dustin's parents. Walter is like this really annoying, like, piece of shit kid, and then Claudia is like is a total cat lady, which makes sense because we do know Dustin's mom in the show, and she's a little neurotic. She's a very like worried motherly figure who loves her cat. And Walter's parents own a liquor store, and they're outside the liquor store, and Claudia's cat Prancer is inside the liquor store, and they leave, and Henry enters the store. And again, this is all happening in his mind. Like he's physically in the attic, but in the void, he's entering the liquor store, and he tries to talk to the cat and like soothe the cat, but he ends up losing control and killing the cat. In his mind, he kills Claudia's cat, which is very sad. As a cat mom, I don't like this. I don't like that Stranger Things keeps killing cats off. I really think that's got to stop. Like it's giving dog owner energy, and I'm not for it. But whatever. As we know, Henry does kill animals. We learn that in the show, and he starts freaking out, and he starts telling himself, "It's not real. It's not real. It's just a nightmare. I'm normal, and I'm Henry Creel." Because that's what his mom told him to do. So that's what he does anytime he loses control. He tries to convince himself that he's normal. Okay, I had to stop recording because I had to go to band practice. So this is Several hours later, so basically, yeah, Henry kills the cat. He tells himself, I'm normal. He tries to convince himself it didn't really happen. But the next day at church, a bunch of the kids are at church. Patty is there and her dad is there. Her dad finds out that she's been talking to a boy and he's not happy about it. He says, boys only want one thing. I don't want you to talk to boys. Claudia comes in all distraught and she's holding a bag with her dead cat in it. And she says that her cat has been murdered, and she says the devil has come to Hawkins. At this point, Henry realizes it wasn't a nightmare, that it actually did happen, and he is responsible for killing the cat. So he's flipping out. He's tweaking out. Hopper is determined to solve the case. He wants to figure out who killed the cat because he wants reward money. And he wants to get out of Hawkins, and he thinks finding this animal murderer is going to get him a ticket out of Hawkins. Henry and Patty have a really sweet moment in church. They are sitting in the little confessional booth, and basically Henry's tweaking out, and he says, I'm the devil. And she's like, oh, tell me more. Like she's intrigued. And they go back and forth, like kind of trauma bonding in a way. Patty's like, I'm an orphan, I don't know my parents. And then Henry's like, yeah, well, I have parents and they hate me and they hate each other. Henry says, I have no friends and I have nightmares. She says, nightmares don't make you the devil. And Henry says, they do if it comes true. Patty says, why don't you make it a good dream? Henry says, bad people don't have good dreams. Patty says good people have bad dreams all the time. So then Patty tells him, well, why don't you dream that we go to Vegas? You can do magic tricks and I can sing. Henry asks her, well, what is your dream? And she says her dream is to find her mother. So Henry tells Patty to close her eyes, and then he gives her the illusion of a stage and a bunch of dancers. Dream a Little Dream of Me is playing. Henry tells Patty to dance, and she says, it's impossible. And he says, it's not impossible, it's a dream. And so they dance. Henry at this point is afraid of keeping the dream going, keeping the illusion going, because he thinks it's going to turn into a nightmare, because it normally does. But Patty's like, no, we have to keep going. I want to find my mom. And then, sure enough, we see Patty's mother singing. And again, she's singing, Dream a Little Dream of Me. And then it all fades away. And Patty's like, no, I just got here. I want to see my mom. And Henry said, I told you, it's just a dream. And then Henry and Patty's fathers both meet each other. That's important to know for later, but they are acquainted. Virginia sees that Henry was talking to a girl, and she forbids him to talk to her. She says, you are not to see that girl anymore. And so obviously Henry is sad about this. Then we cut to Bob on the radio station, and he plays Mr. Sandman. Like, guys, it's just how many times are we going to keep doing this? And he says, dream on, dreamer. Hopper makes Bob join his investigation to find the animal killer, because he knows Bob is extremely smart and he thinks that they'd make a good team. And together they go to the cemetery where Claudia's cat is buried, and they dig it up. And Hopper has Bob bring his camera with him so that they can take photos of this cat and see the evidence of, how it died, its limbs being broken, all that. But the thing is, as Hopper is holding this dead cat, he has Bob lay down on the ground and take the picture with the camera facing up, and then Hopper accidentally drops the cat on Bob. And this is horribly gruesome, but it does kind of parallel his death. It parallels Bob's death because he dies on the floor with the Demogorgons attacking him. So out of all the parallels and loops that we see, this one's a little harsh. Yeah, so Hopper drops the dead cat on Bob, who's lying down on the ground. And of course, he's freaking out. He's grossed out by this. And then Bob makes the connection that all of these kids in school are all of a sudden, their pets are dropping dead. And he makes the connection. All of the students who are losing pets are in the drama club. So someone in the drama club must be killing these pets. And then the next day at drama rehearsal for the play, Hopper speaks to Henry and he tells him, I know there's a connection here. The killer is here in this room because it's everybody who's losing a pet is in this drama club. So he's not even suspecting Henry at this point. He's just confiding in Henry, saying the killer's in this room with us right now. And of course, Henry is backing up and freaking out, and we hear static on the radio. That usually happens when Henry is in an uncomfortable situation, or if, you know, whether he's losing control or whether he gets really fearful, that's when the static happens. Hopper wants to walk with Henry and talk to him more about it. Henry runs to the bathroom because he's about to freak out. Henry's on the bathroom floor freaking out. He's telling himself that he's normal. The lights are flickering. The mirror is breaking. And then Patty comes in and tries to talk to Henry. And Henry says he's not supposed to see her anymore. And Patty's like, why? Is your mom jealous? And then she asks him, do I make you nervous? And then the lights flicker even more. And then Henry says, no. And then she asks him, why don't you touch me? And the lights flicker more. And then she says, your mother's right, you know. You are going to hurt me. You're going to kill me. You're gonna kill lots of things. And then this turns into a creepy nightmare for Henry, where Patty is picking at her hair and revealing her scalp. And she's picking her hair out and just putting it in the sink next to her. And she's taunting him. Obviously, this isn't the real Patty. This is an illusion. Henry starts attacking her. He starts hitting her. And then she appears dead for just a second. The lights, this sequence in the play is really cool because the lights keep going on and off. And every time the lights go on again, something different is happening. And then it goes black. And then they're somewhere else on the stage. It's really cool. But basically, this whole segment of Henry and Patty fighting each other, like physically fighting, and her face turns into a demogorgon. And then before we know it, the nightmare is over. The lights come back on. And then the real Patty is standing there. And she's like, Henry, it's time for our part. Come on, we're supposed to go to practice. So that entire segment was all in Henry's mind, and the real Patty is standing here now asking him, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here. So then they go to practice, but Henry, reasonably so, is still tweaking out and just freaked out because he's scared of himself. He's scared of doing anything bad. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to control this thing inside of him. During rehearsal, they are supposed to rehearse the kissing scene between the witch boy and Patty's character. Henry runs off stage and he's trying to run away. He's like, Patty, don't go near me. I can't be near you. He's basically just freaking out and he's like, I'm not normal. I'm not okay. Patty is fighting him on this. And I just want to tell you, like, Joyce is standing there watching, like, jaw on the floor, because she's like, whoa, they're method acting right now. And all the kids are just staring at them as they're arguing back and forth. Henry says it's not safe to be around him. Patty insists. She tries calming him down. He said, something is wrong with me. I'm not normal. And she says, of course you're not normal. You're a weirdo. But why does it have to be wrong? A lot of Patty and Henry's exchanges do feel a lot like Will and Mike scenes, specifically in season 2, when Will is being possessed and, you know, he's on his bed, he's talking to Mike, and he's saying, what if he spies back? What if the Mind Flayer uses me to spy back? And then Mike takes his hand and said, he won't. And he basically says that Will's ability to see these things is actually really cool, and it's a gift. And Patty says something very similar to Henry. She says that he's not a mistake, but that he's a miracle. And that, to me, feels very reminiscent of Mike and Will's scenes in the early seasons. And then Patty tells him to kiss her. And then he's just pathetic on the floor. He's like crawling on the floor, basically. And she demands, she says, kiss me. And then she leans down and she kisses him while he's laying on the floor. And then the lights flicker. And I want to go on a little tangent real quick about electricity. As we know, Stranger Things' signature move is making the lights flicker, and there's a lot that has to do with electricity and lights flickering anytime there's anything going on with the Upside Down or the Demogorgons, Vecna, anything. Even Eleven's powers, like, the lights always flicker. That's always a telltale sign that something is going on. And this also brings me back to season 2, when Dustin and Steve are first forming their friendship and they're walking on the railroad tracks. And Steve is telling Dustin, like, kind of what it's like to have feelings for someone. And this is what Steve says. It's like a feeling before a storm. You can't see it, but you can feel it. This electricity. And then Dustin, later on in the season, also talks to Lucas, because Dustin was a little sad because he had a crush on Max, but we all know that Max chooses Lucas. And Dustin is a little sad for a minute, but he even tells Lucas towards the end of season 2, like, oh, I can feel it between you two, the electricity. So a lot of talk about electricity, a lot of close-up shots of the lights flickering on and off, And then I think about the lightning in the season 5 official poster. And then if we think about Matthew Modine's reel where he's walking down the hallway in the lab, if you listen closely, I know the sound on this video is really loud for no reason, but if you listen closely, you hear a clock ticking and then you also hear electric buzzing, like bzz, bzz, bzz. And this also just brings me back to Shock Jock and the dial and, you know, the electricity, like making the Demogorgon come back to life. I feel like there's more to this. I feel like there's more to the lore of Stranger Things having to do with electricity. That's another thing that we haven't fully uncovered and maybe we'll never uncover fully. But I do think there's more to that because since day one, they've been putting a lot of attention to electricity and to lights. In the official Stranger Things sticker book, there's this page with, you know, the main kids' characters' faces and, you know, each sticker has like little doodles around the character. For the most part, they all have like little D&D doodles. Like Will's sticker has the wizard hat drawn on and little stars around him. For Max, they have a skateboard and it says Zoomer. Lucas, it says Ranger. Like they all have like their specific little things, right? But for Mike's, for some reason, with his portrait, it's just doodles of lightning bolts everywhere. And I know it's probably not that deep because it's just a sticker out of a sticker book, but I am wondering why they chose lightning bolts for Mike when if everybody else has like D&D references to their characters, why doesn't Mike have like a sword or a shield or even like a D20 dice, like something that feels more Mike? But instead, he has a bunch of lightning bolts around his head. And I don't know if there's any significance in that, but I am just seeing this pattern since day one of electricity and how much they bring focus to that. And I feel like there's something more there that we haven't fully uncovered. Anyway, that's my electricity rant. Okay, back to the first shadow. So after the kissing scene, they go to Melvald's. Yes, the place that sells milkshakes. Yes. And even the Melvald's neon sign, the big Melvald sign on the wall, has a milkshake next to it. They are pointing this out for a reason. They want us to see this for a reason. Will's coming out scene. Milkshakes at Melvald's. Big ass milkshake Melvald's sign. But we all know it as a general store in the later years. I'm just saying it's a big inconsistency that they're pointing out once again. Explain that, conformity gate deniers. When all the kids are at Melvald's, Hopper realizes, hold on. It's like what's happening in the play is happening to us right now. Can they be more obvious and on the nose? Hopper says, it's like what's happening in the play is happening to us right now. And he says, it's all in the text, baby. And honestly, I feel like this is the perfect argument against anyone who's like, you have no evidence to back up conformity gate and you have no evidence to support this theory. It's all in the text. It's all in the text. The biggest evidence we have in conformity gate, I mean, yeah, we could list every little thing. But overall, it is the system, it is the recipe that every Stranger Things season follows. Every single time, without fail. The parallels, the foreshadowing, everything has always been a specific setup, a specific way. And the 5th season purposefully goes against every single thing that we have learned to know. That, to me, is ultimately the biggest evidence, is that it does not follow the formula. It is very intentionally wrong, and it feels like it's on purpose. Meanwhile, Henry and Patty are sitting in the diner booth, and Patty wants to find her mom. Again, she wants to enter the void, and Henry agrees. They're going to make it a date. And Hopper and Bob are talking about the investigation. And they link the static to the killing of animals, because every time something happens, every time someone's pet dies, there's a lot of static. And Bob has been noticing this because he's always, he's on his radio show every single night. So he knows when the power goes out and everything cuts out for his radio show. Bob says, supersonic sound waves powerful enough to kill. This also makes me think of the kryptonite in season 5. Joyce overhears them talking and then she joins the investigation. She agrees to help them. And she asks Bob to build some sort of tracking device. Then we cut to Bob on his little radio show again. He says, "Dream on, dreamers," and he plays the song Walking After Midnight. Henry comes home late because he was out at Melvald's with all the kids. and his mother's waiting there for him, and she asks him why he's so late. He basically he said, "Go to bed, Virginia." He antagonizes his mother. He reminds her of when her father used to lock her in a closet when she was little and the spiders would come. The mind flare or whatever is like reaching into her mind and seeing what her fears are and telling them to her. And he makes the spiders come crawling out of the jars. And then Henry takes off his shirt, and then we see spider legs coming out of him like he's turning into a spider. And it's really creepy. And Virginia is freaking out, and she's calling for Victor. And she runs out of the attic. Do I agree with Virginia's choices? No. Do I blame her for being fucking scared of her son? No. I don't blame her one bit. Okay, so now we cut to a different night. This is the night that Patty and Henry are going to try to find her mother. Bob, Joyce, and Hopper meet up, and Bob has his new device that he invented, the directional antenna device, and he calls it DAD for short. So it's called DAD. Basically, the device is called Dad. Another father reference. Also, talking about dads, Hopper's dad is like chief of police, and he's an asshole to him. He's a very abusive father. Hopper's got daddy issues. Henry's got daddy issues because his dad is just like an absent, raging alcoholic. And Patty also has daddy issues because her dad forbids her to like do anything or have any sort of like autonomy or anything. Like, and then as we know in Stranger Things, Will has daddy issues because Lonnie is also a very abusive parent to him. And also we know Dr. Brenner, who is Papa. There's a lot of father figures and a lot of daddy issues in Stranger Things. And now this device that Bob made just happens to be called Dad. Now Henry and Patty go into the attic. Victor goes to Patty's father distraught because he says Virginia took Alice and left because she's freaking scared of her son and she doesn't think it's safe. She thinks something's going on. And then he lets Patty's dad know that Henry and Patty are currently together. And Patty's dad says, "What are you talking about? She's not allowed to talk to boys." And Victor says, "Well, why are they at my house right now then?" So Patty's dad and Henry's dad rush to the Creel house to separate these children because Patty's dad is not having it. All right, then we cut back to Joyce and Hopper and Bob, and Joyce and Hopper are having their classic lovers quarrel. They're always fighting, bickering. Bob asks if they're together, and Joyce turns to Hopper and says, "In your dreams." Henry's dad and Patty's dad reach the house. Static is going crazy. You can hear it over the radio. Static is going freaking crazy. And then Victor says, "They're here." Just like Will in season 5 before the Demogorgons attack the Max Z, he says, "They're here." Also, that's a, I believe, Poltergeist reference, right? They're here. Victor starts tweaking out because he keeps having like visions of the war. Apparently he's flipping out on the floor. And so Patty's dad goes up to the attic to separate the children. At this point, Henry is in the void. Patty can hear her mom singing over the radio. Henry sees a theater. He sees dancers. And he says, "It's just like your dream." But it does become a nightmare because when he approaches Patty's mom, she turns to him and she goes, "Hello, Henry." And it gets creepy real fast, and Henry's trying to escape. At this point, Bob's tracking device is blowing up. It completely combusts. And they figure out it is coming from the direction of the Creel house. Patty's dad finds Henry holding Patty's arm, and then he tries to separate the two, and he calls Henry a freak. Henry says, "You can't have her. She's ours." And he throws Patty and her dad aside. And then he starts levitating. Bob, Joyce, and Hopper break into the Creel house. They find Victor. He's tweaking out. They think that Victor must be the killer. Now, Patty is in Henry's mindscape. She sees his memories. She sees him being taunted for being different. She sees the boy that he blinded. She sees him being bullied. She sees how his parents talk about him. And Patty breaks Henry free out of the illusion. Patty's dad falls. He takes a big tumble down the stairs. He is severely injured. Bob, Joyce, and Hopper are at the house, and they see Patty's dad fall to the ground. And they run to him, and he urgently tells them, "Save the boy." This is really interesting because why would this boy who is levitating into the air and throwing you aside, why is your response, "Save the boy"? More on that later. Patty runs away out of the attic. She tells Henry, "Don't touch me." And Henry is distraught. He is so sad because he just lost control. He severely hurt both of them. He hurt Patty. He severely injured her father. And Henry looks down at his hand. "I'm normal. I'm Henry Creel." And again, it's his left hand, the same hand that we keep seeing. Some time passes, and now we see Virginia leaning over Henry. He's in bed, and she's singing "Tonight You Belong to Me" to him. And she tells him that she found a doctor from Nevada who's really gonna help him. And that doctor, you can probably guess, is Dr. Brenner. And what's interesting is that this actor in the play is the same actor who plays Robert Ackers, the soldier in season 5. The actor's name is Alex Barreau. I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. And there's so many suspicious things going on with Dr. Brenner as it is. So the fact that he's the same actor who's also in season 5, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I think there's something there. And then the second act starts with tapes, memories of Henry's birthday, these videotapes. Then we see Brenner and Henry in the lab. There is a red phone on the wall in the lab. Brenner calls Henry weak and that he craves power because he's weak. Henry's tweaking out. He ends up killing a hamster in the lab. After Brenner was just bullying him, taunting him, once Henry kills the hamster, Brenner tells him, "Good job, Henry." And he's very soft and he's very loving. And we've seen this with him and Eleven. He would be really harsh and cruel to Eleven and punish her, but then once she killed, he would reward her, and that's like the same thing. Henry runs into his arms and hugs him. And this is also where the daddy issues come in, because Brenner is like that toxic father figure. At one point, he's abusing you, berating you, and the next minute, he's telling you how much he loves you and hugging you. So Hopper's dad calls him Nancy Drew. That is another parallel to season 3 when Nancy's being called Nancy Drew, and it's, an insult. Patty and Bob are in the hospital because their dad is in critical condition, but they can't get to him because there are so many guards and security people. But Joyce and Hopper tell Bob, "We need to talk to your dad because we need a witness. We need a witness in order to catch Victor," because, again, they think Victor is the killer. They cause a scene, they make the guards distracted, and then Patty's able to go visit her father in the hospital bed. And he has bandage over his eyes are bleeding. And Bob told Patty that their father said, "Save the boy," and so he wanted her to ask about that, so she does. And her father says, "It came for me, for the secret that rots inside me. The boy saved me from it. He could save all of us." So now let's go on another tangent. This whole play proves to us that Henry is good, or at least he's inherently good. This whole play is him struggling and fighting back the evil. He does not want it to consume him, but ultimately it does. But we have seen that he's actually a good person, and he wants to be normal. He wants nothing more than to just be normal. And let's think about in season 5, Henry, Mr. What's-It. He gives Holly a tape player and her favorite tape. Why would he be giving her music if ultimately that would help her, And also, the WSQK hosts, Mindy Flair and Vance Goodman, as we know, those are supposed to represent the Mind Flayer and Vecna. But the name Vance Goodman implies that Vecna is a good man. Vance Goodman. So they're trying to tell us something. They are trying to tell us that Henry is a good person. He just can't control whatever's going on inside of him. And we think Will trying to save him in season 5, during the battle, Will is trying to tell him basically like, this isn't you, like it's not your fault what happened to you, you can still be good, you can still help us. But the weird thing is, this whole play and this whole show is setting Henry up to be a good guy, or at least have a redemption arc in the end. Everything is lining up for him to have a redemption arc, but they don't give it to him, because when Will is trying to help him, he basically tells Will, "No, I let it in willingly. This is who I am and this is who I always been." But the first shadow play totally goes against all of that and tells us that Henry wasn't like this. Henry never wanted this. And this takes me back to Star Wars, to The Empire Strikes Back. Because as we know, The Empire Strikes Back was a very important reference for the show, and they even included it in that T-Mobile ad. The thing about The Empire Strikes Back, though, is that it is the 5th episode of Star Wars. It is also the episode where the villains win. And Darth Vader doesn't get his redemption arc until episode 6. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't watched Star Wars. What are you doing with your life if you haven't? But as we know, Darth Vader is Luke's father. There's another dad reference right there. He saves Luke and he kills Palpatine because Palpatine was the greater evil. This show has set up Henry or Vecna to have a redemption arc at some point, because this whole play proves that. This whole play proves this point in setting him up for a redemption arc. But they don't give it to him. They don't give it to him. And that's another big plot point, and that's another reason why I'm on Conformity Gate bus. Because just from a writing standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And this whole thing about save the boy saved me from it. There is good in him. Vance Goodman, Mr. What's-It, saving the, or I don't know what he was doing with the kids. We still don't know. But then he gives Holly a tape player. And then Henry is constantly carrying the radio all around, probably trying to drown out the noise and trying to drown out the mind flayer or the greater evil, right? Why do all of this for a redemption arc and not give it to him? What if we need to go back and do it again? Because Henry is good. He is. He's done bad things. He's lost control, but that's not who he is at his core. And so the confusing part about this whole play, and even season 5 of Stranger Things, is that they're setting it up for Henry to have a redemption arc, but they don't give it to him. And that just adds even more confusion to the story. Also, it makes me think of that interview with Noah and Millie, when the interviewer asks, like, who do you think is the most misunderstood character? And Noah says Vecna. And then Millie tries to stop him from explaining, because he was probably about to say a spoiler or something, and she shuts it down.
Who's the most misunderstood villain across the seasons?
Loki Vecna.
Really?
Because, like...
No, shut up.
Oh.
That's it. Now, be quiet. Okay, carry on.
Because why was Millie trying to shut that down? Because, like, the big reveal they gave us about Henry in season 5, not really that crazy of a reveal. If anything, it just left me more confused. And now, especially after seeing the first shadow, I'm like, wait, obviously I feel way more empathy for him because I understand him and I understand, like, how sad his story is. But, like, season 5 didn't show us that. Okay, back to the play. Brenner takes blood samples from Henry. We learn that the man that Henry kills in the cave is a Russian spy. The play does not explain this very much. They just hint at it. They just hint at the man that escaped, he was a Russian spy, and we know what happened in Nevada. And Henry's like freaking out, and he's like, no. So, okay. Because technically, the first Shadow play came out before season 5, right? And they said that this play would be important for season 5. They're just referencing what happened in the cave, but they're not explaining it because they're saving that reveal for season 5. So I think now the Behind the Curtain First Shadow documentary, where Kate was saying, we need to save the reveal of blank. They censored her. She said, we need to save the reveal of blank for season 5 and blank. So now I'm wondering if she's talking about the cave scene. Maybe originally they were going to show that in the play, and then they had to cut it down and just hint at it, like hint that something happened in Nevada, and they didn't go into detail. I'm thinking that is pretty likely. However, we still don't have an answer for what she meant by season 5 and bleep. There's another thing. Season 5 and bleep. I don't know what that is for. We still haven't figured that out. But I think this cave scene might be what she was referring to. And then, remember the ship at the very beginning of the play? Brenner shows Henry this old man in a wheelchair, and he is the captain of the ship. And apparently he was the only survivor of the ship. And we find out that that is Dr. Brenner's dad. Another dad reference. Crazy. So many dads. Huh. Also, if I'm able to find the comment, I will. This was a few months ago, but Matthew Modine responded to someone's comment months ago, and he implied that if Henry is patient number 1, that implies there has to be a patient 0. There's always a patient 0. And Matthew Modine basically confirmed that Dr. Brenner was patient 0. Bob, Patty, Joyce, and Hopper try to reach Henry through the radio at midnight. They want to talk to Henry, so they try to reach him through the radio static. So Patty puts on the blindfold and tries to find him, and she does. She finds Henry in the void. He is on a gurney. He's like passed out on a gurney. And Henry wakes up in the void. Henry and Patty are communicating in the void. Henry says to her, I guess this is goodbye. And Patty says, that thing is not you. And Henry says, it is now. And he says, it shows me fear's secrets. And he reveals Patty's dad's secret. And the secret is that Patty's dad is her biological father. This whole time she thought she was an orphan, she thought she was adopted, but no, her dad is her real dad this entire time. And he was a principal when he was younger as well, and he got a student pregnant. After Patty's mom gave birth, he sent her away, and then he raised Patty, and he was ashamed because that's creepy as hell. So Patty realizes this, and Henry's taunting her. It's the mind flayer, whatever, controlling him. And he says the monster doesn't lie. Patty fights back. She says it is using you. And she says she isn't afraid. Henry collapses. Why aren't you afraid? He says. And she says, I know my dad is ashamed of me, but now I know that my mom loved me and my mom actually wanted me. And she says, I am not afraid because I am loved. And so are you, Henry. She says she's loved and so is Henry. And she says, we can be superheroes. I feel like that phrase is like a punch to the gut now. Like, I feel like someone just like put a sword through my heart. Yeah, that one hurts. She says, we can be superheroes. And she tells Henry that you don't have to do this. We can run away together. We can find my mother together. Just pack your things and meet me there. We'll escape Hawkins together. This breaks through to Henry. He's able to like break free out of the possession. And he decides, yeah, I want to run away with Patty. When he comes to and he wakes up, Brenner wants him to kill a man. He's like, all right, you've killed animals. Time for the next one. Like, kill this guy. Come on. And Henry says, no, I'm done. I don't want to do your experiments anymore. And Brenner taunts him. And he says, you can't outrun the shadow. You are the shadow. They have this dude like with a bag over his head. This is the dude that Brenner wants him to kill. And as Brenner's taunting Henry, the dude's eyes like start to bleed. And Brenner's like, oh, you just can't help yourself, can you? Look at what you're doing to this guy. Henry tries to run away. And at this point, a bunch of the guards are running up trying to capture him. And he just like, he injures them and he runs away. And then Brenner says, we can't make him kill. He has to choose it. So Brenner lets him go run home because he knows like he's gonna come back. He's gonna want to kill someone. Okay, and now this is the night of the play. Henry's supposed to be on stage in a few minutes. Joyce is freaking out because she's like, where is Henry? Where is Henry? He's our lead. And Patty says, he'll be here, I know it. And as Joyce is frantically running around, someone hands her an axe, and then she asks, why am I holding an axe? Another foreshadow. Okay, Henry enters the void, and then he finds out. What's interesting is that he's able to time travel in a way. Like, he's able to see past memories of what things that have happened. So he enters the void, puts the blindfold on, and then he sees a conversation that his mother had with Dr. Brenner. And basically, Dr. Brenner was like, you can live a normal life. Just give us your son. We'll keep him safe. You'll never have to worry about him hurting anyone ever again. And his mom agrees. She tells him to lock him up and throw away the key. The principal's daughter, Patricia Newby. Oh, okay. And now let's go on a little key tangent. So we've said this before, and if you notice, if you rewatch the show and you look for key imagery and mention of keys, it's all over the place. There's so many references to keys in the show. And okay, this is gonna also be a Byler rant. Sorry. No, I'm not. And she tells Brenner to lock him away and throw away the key. And the key meaning Patty Newby, because Patty is his love. And that's, love defeats fear. If you get rid of the person he loves, then what else is there keeping him grounded, right? So love is the key, and Stranger Things has always been about love. We've seen it multiple times. So Patty is the key for Henry. If Patty and Henry parallel Mike and Will, if we go back to season 5, the drawing of the wormhole on the glass window, and it's framed over Will, and there's an X over his heart. And when Max and Holly are trying to find whatever it is they're looking for, right, when they're going through Henry's memories, she says, M marks the spot. And that was like the shape of the cave was an M, so when she looked through the telescope, it matched up, whatever. But what could M also stand for? Mike. What is Mike? Will has said that he is the heart. Do you see, you follow this? Right? The X over Will's heart. M marks the spot instead of X. Normally the saying is X marks the spot, but it's M marks the spot. Mike is the heart. That's too many things lining up. I'm sorry. That's too many things lining up. And again, all the key imagery. And also in the epilogue, Will is wearing a lock necklace. Okay, so let's back to the play. So Henry realizes that his mother agreed to let Brenner take him away. And here comes the dinner scene. The dinner scene that we saw in season 4 with Victor, okay? Henry enters the void and he kills Virginia and Alice, as we know, because we've seen that in season 4 when Victor was talking to Nancy and Robin. And then we see the Mind Flayer on stage. This ginormous Mind Flayer on the stage, which is really cool and really frightening. Now, Dark of the Moon is playing, okay? Since Henry's not there, Bob is taking his place and he is playing the love interest. Kind of weird because Patty and Bob are siblings, but Bob does know the part, so Joyce said, just don't kiss, and it's fine. The play goes dark. The lights go out. And so Joyce tries to go see what's going on, and she finds Henry in the dark. She says she figured out that his dad was behind all the killings. And Joyce says, you're going to be okay. Henry says, Joyce, what are you going to do? Rewrite the ending? I shouldn't even have to say anything there, right? Like, it's all in the text, baby. I'm running out of space on my camera, so I'm going to try to zoom through the rest of this. All right. Henry finds Patty. She's on top of the the ramp or like the balcony of the stage, I guess. He says we have to run before Brenner finds us. Even after he just killed his mother and his sister, he is still desperately trying to escape. He is trying so hard to be good, and so, like, he wants a normal life more than anything. He finds Patty. He tells her, we got to go now because Brenner's coming for us. But Brenner shows up and he starts taunting Patty and he's egging Henry on. Henry starts tweaking. Brenner tells Patty, like, this is like an order from the United States government. Like, we need him. And she says the United States government can go to hell. I just wanted to include that line because, yeah. Brenner tells Patty that Henry killed his family and that he will kill her too. Patty says, you're lying, you're lying. And Brenner's like, nope, it's true. And then Henry is like crying, flailing around. He's like, I would never hurt you, Patty. Patty keeps telling Brenner he's lying. But then Henry breaks down. He says, he's not lying. I wanted to be better for you, but I can't. I told you, I'm not normal. Then Patty says, then what are you, Henry Creel? And Brenner is telling Henry, let it in. Like, yes, like, let's go. Like, let the evil take over. The beam that Patty is on breaks and she falls. She falls to the floor. And Henry thinks that he killed her. But he didn't. She's fine. But he thinks that he killed her. Now, to bring this back to Star Wars, is this not just the story of Anakin? Spoiler alert for Star Wars, if you didn't know, Anakin becomes Darth Vader. He's been fighting with the dark side this whole time, but his love for Padme is really what, like, kept him good, or, like, trying to be good, right? But ultimately, he was manipulated by Palpatine, which in this case is Brenner. Like, if we're thinking about Henry and Brenner, it's the same thing. It's Palpatine is Brenner, Anakin is Henry, Padme is Patty. Kind of similar names, by the way. This is the same story. Anakin, towards the end, like after he's turned to the dark side and he kills a bunch of kids, he kills a bunch of people. He hurts Padme and then he thinks that he killed her. And Padme does die, spoiler alert, but it wasn't directly because of him. Time jump, it is now Christmas. Joyce works at Melvald's. Bob says, dream on, dreamer. We see Patty. She finds her mother. She's limping, though. There's also a lot of limping in Stranger Things. But whatever. She finds her mom. They reunite. They sing together. My camera ran out of space, and I don't want to risk, like, importing some of it, then deleting it. What if I accidentally delete it before it completes importing or something? I don't know. So I'm sorry about this. I'm just gonna quickly get through the rest with my iPhone. The ending scene of the first Shadow play is Brenner and Henry in the lab. A bunch of children had blood transfusions from Henry, as we know, because, you know, that's how 11 has powers, apparently, and that's how all the other kids in the lab have powers. They have kept Henry pretty, tightly locked up. They treated him like an animal in a cage, basically, and they, gave his blood to all these children or pregnant mothers or whatever, right? But Brenner decides it's finally time to give Henry some freedom and he should get to know the kids. Brenner says this verbatim to Henry. He says, you're as much of a father as I am, Henry. Like, in relation to the kids. Like, these kids have your blood, so you're just as much as a father to them as me. More dad stuff. And he asks, are you ready to meet the kids? And Henry says, yes, Papa. And then that is when we see the closing scene of Henry meeting Eleven for the first time. Okay, so that was the first shadow play. As you can tell, so many things, so many crazy Easter eggs and one-liners that like don't really make sense otherwise outside of a conformity gate perspective. Also, after the play ends on the screen, there is an up next. Like, you know how when you finish an episode of Netflix, as the credits are rolling, there's that little thing in the corner that says up next, and it's like the next episode. That does play at the shows on the screen. It says up next. There are exit signs everywhere, apparently. Thank you so much to the commenter that let me know that they went to the Stranger Things show in the UK. And they said that there were extra exit signs hung up all over the theater. And in the UK, the exit signs are different. They're green. But there were like the red exit signs that we're used to seeing in America just mounted up all over the wall. They also gave me the link to this image so that you can see both the exit signs side by side. Which, thank you so much for that, by the way. So yeah, even in the theater, they got exit signs everywhere. Guys, I don't know. Personally, I wanted to take a break from Conformity Gate, but after watching the first shadow, that's what made me so excited to make a video and talk about it, because it's just like Hopper said, it's all in the text. Like, what is the purpose of making this play and giving us Henry's backstory and then having Joyce say things like, if we pull this off, it'll change everything. And then, you know, Henry says, what will you do? Rewrite the ending? And all of these foreshadows and these parallels, and then Hopper saying it's happening to us in the play, it's happening in real life to us. Like, I just don't really have an explanation for it. And one last thing I will leave you with is one of the biggest plot holes that we've mentioned before is the budget. The budget for season 5 was around $480 million, and I just want to give you some perspective, okay? Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey that just came out, you know, huge movie. I've seen everybody talk about it, right? The budget for that movie was $250 million for The Odyssey. Spider-Man Brand New Day that also just came out, $225 million. And you're telling me a Netflix show had $480 million? I don't know. I feel like the budget is one of the biggest pieces of evidence, because what did they spend this money on? It's something that I cannot answer. What did they spend this money on? And then if you think, oh, well, it's because it's a series, so ultimately each episode is like its own movie, so it's more expensive. The final season of Game of Thrones is around $90 million, which is like not a lot compared to Stranger Things. The final season of Euphoria was around $200 million. I don't know, guys. This is why these things are why I'm still on the bus. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Yeah. I'm gonna go sit down and probably not talk for the next few hours. All right, bye-bye.